What if the visions of a 20th century prophet are coming true right before our eyes? Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, predicted catastrophic earth changes that could reshape the United States coastal cities sinking, the Mississippi River widening into an inland sea, and seismic events shaking the world. With rising sea levels, megaquakes, and climate disasters increasing, are we seeing the early signs of his prophecy? Join us as we explore the shocking evidence and the possibility of a great flood wiping out major US cities by 2025. Edgar Cayce predicted dramatic earth changes that would reshape the United States. His visions included the sinking of major coastal cities such as New York, Los Angeles, and areas along the Gulf Coast due to rising sea levels, earthquakes, and shifting land masses. As we are in 2025, many wonder if recent climate disasters and seismic activity signal the beginning of these transformations. Cayce described a future where the Earth will be broken up in the western portion of America, leading to devastating changes. Some scientists warn that intensifying storms, melting ice caps, and tectonic shifts could support such predictions. Rising sea levels threaten low-lying cities, while earthquake-prone regions like California face ongoing seismic risks. While skeptics argue that Cayce's prophecies lack scientific basis, others note alarming parallels between his predictions and modern climate concerns. Are we witnessing the early stages of a planetary upheaval, or are these natural cycles exaggerated by fear? As scientific data and ancient prophecies intersect, the question remains, is the world heading toward an unprecedented transformation, just as Cayce foresaw? Only time will tell. Cayce's visions suggested that New York City would suffer catastrophic flooding due to tectonic instability. He indicated that certain parts of the city would eventually be swallowed by the Atlantic Ocean. While modern scientific projections have raised concerns about rising sea levels affecting coastal metropolises, Cayce's prophecy warned of sudden, dramatic changes rather than gradual shifts. The idea of New York being partially submerged aligns with contemporary concerns about climate change and extreme weather events, though his predictions emphasize seismic activity as the primary cause. Cayce specifically pointed to California as a region that would experience severe earthquakes, leading to unprecedented destruction. He warned that Los Angeles and San Francisco would not only suffer from devastating tremors, but could eventually slide into the Pacific Ocean. Modern geologists recognize the potential dangers posed by the San Andreas Fault, which runs through much of California and has the capability of producing massive earthquakes. Cayce's predictions continue to fuel discussions about earthquake preparedness in the region, as fears persist that the big one is yet to come. Another region that Cayce foresaw being dramatically altered was the Gulf Coast, including Louisiana, Texas, and Florida. He predicted that flooding would engulf parts of these states, leaving large portions underwater. Hurricanes, rising sea levels, and coastal erosion have already begun reshaping parts of the Gulf Coast, but Cayce's visions suggested a much more sudden and catastrophic event, possibly triggered by seismic disturbances or extreme weather phenomena. One of Cayce's most startling predictions involved the Mississippi River. He described a future scenario in which the river would expand significantly, forming an inland sea that would split the United States into two separate landmasses. This vision aligns with concerns about potential seismic activity along the New Madrid Fault, which has the power to alter the course of the Mississippi River dramatically. If such an event were to occur, it would have profound consequences for transportation, agriculture, and the overall landscape of the central United States. Cayce indicated that these dramatic changes would occur between 1958 and 1998, with an acceleration of events after the year 2000. While the predicted timeline may seem inaccurate, some believe that his reference to this period signified the beginning of subtle geological shifts rather than immediate, full-scale disasters. Supporters of Cayce's predictions argue that rising global temperatures, an increase in natural disasters, and growing seismic activity could be signs that his prophecies are slowly unfolding. Though skeptics dismiss Cayce's forecasts as speculative, His visions remain a topic of interest for those who believe in the possibility of future Earth changes, whether viewed as a warning or a mystical insight into potential global transformations. His predictions continue to inspire discussion and debate in the modern era. Current data indicates that global sea levels are rising due to multiple interconnected factors, leading to increased risks for coastal communities. The primary drivers of rising sea levels include glacier and polar ice melt. The Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets are experiencing unprecedented ice loss. Studies suggest that trillions of tons of ice have melted over the past few decades, contributing significantly to rising sea levels. Thermal expansion. As ocean temperatures rise due to global warming, seawater expands. This phenomenon alone has led to measurable increases in sea levels and is expected to continue as temperatures rise. Extreme weather patterns. The frequency and intensity of hurricanes, typhoons, and storm surges have increased. These extreme weather events accelerate coastal erosion, inundate low-lying areas, and cause permanent land loss in some regions. NASA and NOAA projections indicate that by 2050, sea levels could rise between 1 and 3 feet. This dramatic increase would render many coastal cities and islands uninhabitable. Entire populations may need to migrate inland, causing social and economic upheaval. Some have speculated that this gradual transformation aligns with Edgar Cayce's prophecies, which suggested that rising waters would submerge significant portions of the Earth's coastlines. Could it be that his predictions are unfolding in phases, as we see these changes gradually occurring? Edgar Cayce predicted that major earthquakes would reshape various parts of the world, particularly in the United States. Modern scientific data suggests that these predictions align with current geological risks. San Andreas Fault scientists agree that California is overdue for a massive earthquake, potentially exceeding a magnitude of 7.8. The fault line, which runs nearly the entire length of the state, has the potential to unleash widespread destruction, impacting millions of people and vital infrastructure. Cascadia subduction zone located off the Pacific Northwest coast. This fault has the potential to trigger a megathrust earthquake of magnitude 9.0 or higher. Such an event would create a massive tsunami, devastating coastal communities in Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. Yellowstone supervolcano. Although Cayce did not specifically mention Yellowstone, its potential eruption aligns with his broader predictions of Earth changes. A supervolcanic eruption could cause catastrophic climatic and geological transformations, affecting not just the US, but the entire planet. Modern geologists monitor these regions closely, recognizing the increasing likelihood of large-scale seismic and volcanic events. The potential for destruction mirrors Cayce's warnings, reinforcing the idea that Earth is undergoing a period of transformation, as foreseen by the sleeping prophet. Cayce's prophecies described great rifts forming in the Central US, effectively splitting the country and creating a new inland sea. While this may sound like a dramatic scenario, scientific evidence suggests that certain geological and climatic factors could contribute to such an event. New Madrid seismic zone. This fault line, located in the Central US, caused some of the strongest earthquakes in American history during the early 1800s. If another series of large quakes were to occur, it could significantly alter the landscape, potentially leading to widespread flooding and land shifts. Mississippi River flooding. Climate change models predict that the Mississippi River could experience increased flooding due to more intense storms and rising sea levels. Such flooding could permanently alter the course of the river, inundating vast areas and reshaping land formations. Underground water erosion. Some geologists believe that increased groundwater extraction and erosion could contribute to the weakening of the land in this region, making it more susceptible to large-scale geological changes. If these events unfold as predicted, the U.S. landscape could be drastically transformed. The emergence of an inland sea in the Midwest would validate Cayce's predictions and signify a profound shift in the nation's geography. California is facing an escalating environmental crisis as wildfires, droughts, and earthquakes grow in both frequency and intensity. In recent years, the state has endured record-breaking wildfires that have consumed millions of acres, displacing thousands of residents and causing billions of dollars in damage. The prolonged drought has further exacerbated the situation, depleting reservoirs and threatening agriculture, which is vital to the state's economy. Meanwhile, California's location along the San Andreas Fault and other smaller fault lines makes it highly susceptible to seismic activity. Scientists have long warned that a megaquake is not a question of if, but when. Adding to the crisis, rising sea levels pose a significant threat to coastal cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, where geological instability is already a growing concern. The vulnerability of New York City and the broader eastern seaboard to extreme weather events was made clear by Superstorm Sandy in 2012. The storm caused massive flooding, power outages, and billions in damages, underscoring the city's precarious position as sea levels continue to rise. Scientists note that the Atlantic Ocean is rising faster along the East Coast than in many other parts of the world due to a combination of ocean currents, land subsidence, and melting polar ice. The next major hurricane could bring unprecedented destruction, potentially submerging large sections of New York permanently. Without significant infrastructure adaptations, many coastal communities could face a future where frequent flooding becomes the norm. Louisiana is losing land at an alarming rate, with vast portions of its coastline disappearing into the Gulf of Mexico. New Orleans, a city already below sea level, remains highly vulnerable to hurricanes and storm surges. Meanwhile, cities like Houston and Miami have experienced record-breaking floods in recent years, demonstrating the increasing instability of the region. Florida, in particular, faces an existential crisis, as scientists predict that entire communities could be underwater within 50 years. Rising sea levels, coupled with land subsidence and more frequent hurricanes, put millions of residents at risk. Without aggressive mitigation efforts, portions of the Gulf Coast may become uninhabitable in the coming decades. Edgar Cayce predicted a significant shift in Earth's poles, which could have profound consequences for the planet. A pole shift would disrupt the Earth's magnetic field, potentially triggering an increase in earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and extreme climate fluctuations. As the poles shift, the redistribution of mass could alter tectonic activity, causing previously stable regions to experience unprecedented seismic events. In addition, such a shift could drastically change ocean currents, leading to massive flooding in some areas while exposing new land formations in others. Coastal regions, particularly those already at risk due to rising sea levels, would face heightened danger as water levels surge unpredictably. The displacement of oceanic and atmospheric systems could also result in severe weather anomalies, from prolonged droughts to devastating storms. Recent scientific studies have revealed that solar activity may play a critical role in Earth's changing climate. Solar storms, which release bursts of charged particles from the sun, have the potential to disrupt Earth's weather systems by interfering with atmospheric circulation. These intense solar events could also accelerate glacial melting, leading to a rapid rise in sea levels. As the polar ice caps and major glaciers melt at an unprecedented rate, low-lying coastal regions may face increased flooding, forcing millions of people to relocate. The interaction between solar storms and Earth's shifting magnetic field could further exacerbate natural disasters, making preparedness more crucial than ever. Having a well-stocked supply of food, water, medical kits, and survival essentials is crucial in the event of a sudden disaster. Many people are already moving away from flood-prone coastal areas, recognizing the long-term risks posed by rising sea levels and extreme weather. Relocating to higher ground may be a necessary step for those living in vulnerable regions. Educating communities about geological and environmental risks can help mitigate disaster impacts. Awareness and planning can make a significant difference in reducing casualties and property damage. Edgar Cayce emphasized that physical survival was only part of the equation. He believed that spiritual growth and unity would be essential in navigating these changes. According to Cayce, those who are spiritually prepared will be guided to safety, whether through intuition, divine intervention, or collective resilience. Psychological preparedness is equally important. Facing global changes with fear can lead to panic, while a calm, united approach can help individuals and communities adapt more effectively. Strengthening personal and collective spirituality, fostering compassion, and maintaining a sense of hope may be just as vital as physical readiness in the face of these looming transformations. While skeptics argue that Edgar Cayce's predictions are mere speculation, many of his warnings about future coastal disasters align strikingly with current scientific findings. Cayce foresaw a time when dramatic Earth changes triggered by shifting magnetic poles, seismic activity, and rising sea levels would lead to catastrophic flooding across major cities, particularly in the United States. As we are in 2025, mounting evidence suggests that his concerns were not entirely unfounded. Rising sea levels are already a major threat, driven by climate change and the rapid melting of polar ice caps. Coastal cities such as Miami, New Orleans, and New York are experiencing frequent flooding, with projections indicating that many low-lying areas could become uninhabitable within decades. Studies show that the rate of sea level rise along the U.S. East Coast is accelerating faster than in most other parts of the world, a phenomenon linked to changes in ocean currents and thermal expansion. If current trends continue, the kind of large-scale inundation Cayce predicted may not be far off. Extreme weather events are also becoming more frequent and intense. Hurricanes are growing stronger due to warmer ocean temperatures, leading to increased storm surges and widespread destruction. Superstorm Sandy 2012 and Hurricane Katrina 2005 offered a glimpse of the devastation that future storms could bring, potentially leaving entire regions permanently underwater. Meanwhile, seismic threats loom over the U.S. West Coast, where experts warn that a massive earthquake, often referred to as the Big One, is inevitable. Such an event could trigger tsunamis and additional flooding in vulnerable coastal zones. Could we be on the brink of the Great Flood Cayce foretold? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear: staying informed, preparing for disasters, and adapting to environmental changes are more important than ever. What if the visions of a 20th century prophet are coming true right before our eyes? Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, predicted catastrophic Earth changes that could reshape the United States coastal cities sinking, the Mississippi River widening into an inland sea, and seismic events shaking the world. With rising sea levels, megaquakes, and climate disasters increasing, are we seeing the early signs of his prophecy? Join us as we explore the shocking evidence and the possibility of a great flood wiping out major U.S. cities by 2025.